We're another day closer to the start of the NFL season. Today, we're going to talk all things quarterbacks. Which ones are under the most pressure to deliver in 2024? It's another season preview on the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Sign up now and triple your bonus. That's 125%. Now let's get into some NFL football. Presented by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And here's your host, Jake Asman.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We talk football right now, multiple times a week on the Jake Asman Football Show. And joining me today is one of my good friends. Did some radio with this guy down in Houston. He covers the Texans, has his own YouTube channel. Longtime sports radio veteran Landry Locker joins the Jake Asman Football Show. What's up, Landry?
What's up, man? Happy times, baby. We're about a week away. Can't wait. Football season never ends in our industry, but it officially begins in about a week. I'm pumped.
No doubt. And I will say this, because I watch your YouTube channel all the time. The setup you have, the backdrop, the aesthetics, it's tremendous, man. I mean, the Watt jersey is awesome. I know that's signed as well. You got a chance to obviously cover them.
Personalized.
Yeah, sure. It's personalized. It's autographed. You got the game ball. I mean, you've done very nice as a radio guy transitioning to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm going to get another locker for back there, so it should be here in the next couple of days. But yeah, don't have the Asman backdrop, don't have the logo, but trying to keep up.
All right, let me start with the Texans because that's the team you cover up close. I mean, the hype and excitement for this team. You've been in Houston a long time. Where does it rank? Is this maybe the most anticipated Texans season since maybe ever? I mean, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would think so. I think this is the most excited that people have been because even you can go back to the Kubiak, but Matt Schaub was the quarterback. Not to disrespect Matt Schaub. You didn't feel like you had like a 10-year, 15-year face of the franchise type of quarterback like you do with CJ. Also, it's just been so bad recently that I would say the excitement is as high as it's been since I've been here, and I've been here nearly a decade. But yeah, you talk to people who've been here since the beginning. They say this is the most excited that people have been. You have a young squad, and you've also sprinkled in some vets. So I think it's justifiable. You're always though kind of like hesitant because you start to think what could go wrong, and some things could for the Texans for sure.
What are your thoughts when you look at this Texans team on like some of the biggest challenges they're going to face? Is it the schedule? Is it, hey, what we saw last year? Is it real with Stroud? I mean, what are some of the things you guys are talking about down in Houston that could potentially stop the Texans from being a legit contender?
Well, I think the schedule, it's not necessarily the difficulty, it's the routine because last year their first 16 games were noon Sunday games. And you can ask any coach. I actually had Gary Kubiak on the stream, and he said any coach would love that, as opposed to, sometimes you're playing on Christmas, then you're playing on, a holiday or a Thursday or a Sunday night or a Monday night. So they have 6 primetime games. That's going to be a little bit different. I don't think the expectations are necessarily going to overwhelm them. I think D'Amico does a good job of handling, but I think the actual routine will be something that impacts them. And I also think the division, I think every team in the division did get better. And let's be honest, couple plays here or there, Texans perhaps don't even make the playoffs and don't win a playoff game. So there's just a couple of things that went their way last year, despite all the injuries and stuff. But I think the routine is going to be the thing they're going to have to get the most used to.
Texan storylines aside, just big picture NFL storylines. What to you, Landry, are some of the top things you're the most excited to see play out this year?
Well, obviously, I mean, I'm not just saying this because it's a Jets channel. I want to see how Aaron Rodgers looks. I mean, it's you're talking about a guy who's in his 40s. He's coming off the Achilles surgery. I will say this, though. I mean, Cam Akers has 2 Achilles surgeries, and they both got the new surgery, which I think is kind of like what ACL surgery was. Whatever the hell that was. Remember when the ACL was like, oh, my God, this guy's never going to be back. And now it's like, oh, he's going to be back in 8 months or whatever. I think the Achilles is kind of turned into that. So I'm intrigued to see what Aaron Rodgers does, how he looks. The Brock Purdy situation in the San Francisco 49ers is interesting because kind of seems like there's a little bit of drama there now. And, Brock Purdy, are they going to be able to maintain the level that they've played at? And then I think the AFC North, I think it's going to be an absolute battle up there. I do wonder Baltimore. Right now, I think their win total is around 11. It just seems like sometimes there's like a natural seesaw with Baltimore, and I wonder if they kind of come down to earth and that division gets a little more competitive, especially with Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh perhaps being better this year.
What are your thoughts on some of these rookie quarterbacks? I mean, you guys went through it last year with CJ Stroud. I feel like to use Caleb Williams as an example, I feel like everyone's now expecting Caleb to be CJ, and that's really not fair to Caleb because what CJ did, I'd argue, is the greatest rookie quarterback season we've ever seen.
Yeah, and I would say like we didn't anticipate, CJ's layout being as good as it was last year. We didn't know that Tank Dell and Nico Collins were going to perform to the level they did. We didn't know what kind of coach D'Amico was. I will say this about Caleb. He does seem to have perhaps on paper, which doesn't mean a lot, but the best layout that I think I've ever seen like a number 1 overall pick have. So they do have some talent there. If anyone's going to do what CJ did, I think it's going to be him. The other rookie quarterbacks, I'm intrigued by Daniels. I want to see what he can do in Washington. Drake May, I think New England's probably going to be the worst team in the league. So I don't anticipate much from him. But yeah, it is crazy how now all of a sudden it's like, well, can Caleb Williams do what CJ Stroud did? And CJ Stroud happened to have one of the best rookie seasons ever.
No doubt. Now, when it comes to, the AFC, everyone's chasing the Kansas City Chiefs. To you, Landry, which teams are actually the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs?
The biggest threats to the Chiefs. I think it's really wide open. I think it's kind of the usual suspects from last year. I think, if Joe Burrow can stay healthy, which is a pretty big if, I think Cincinnati's a threat. Whoever comes out of the AFC South, I think they could be a threat. The East, the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, then the Jets are obviously a threat. Miami, I think I pretty much just listed every team. I think it's wide open. I don't think Kansas City, look, last year they looked very vulnerable, and I know they were able to flip the switch, but I just find myself just wondering, are they going to be able to continue this? Or is someone going to catch up to Kansas City? I actually anticipate their division being a little tougher this year as well. I think this is as wide open of an AFC as I can remember. Like I don't think that Kansas. Like if you told me I could take the field, I would take the field. I think it's going to be a very, very competitive. I could see I don't see any overwhelming favorites in any division really. It's wild, and that's the NFL, but I think it's even more extreme this year.
Well, what's so interesting too? Like I know the Chiefs, if you look on BetUS Sportsbook, they're one of the top favorites of the favorites in the AFC, other than the Niners, I believe, as of now, this recording, they're the second, highest odds to win the Super Bowl. But I almost just want to fade them just because I'm fading history, right? No team has ever three-peated. It's so hard to do for a reason. That's kind of why, as great as the Chiefs are, and they're great, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I would take the under on the Chiefs win total just because, of what you said. And also, I think, Chris Jones is a year older. Travis Kelce, he's older. We saw a little bit of a decline from him last year. I think if you're doing a fantasy draft like it used to be, Travis Kelce in the first round, now it's like, well, when am I taking Travis Kelce? And I also, look, I like the speed that they have at wide receiver, and there's going to be some explosive plays. But I think once it gets to the nitty gritty and it's cold and stuff, those receivers are small. Like Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy are small. They're not really used to playing in miserable weather like Kansas City or anything like that. So I like that they got this explosiveness, and there's going to be times where you turn on SportsCenter, you turn on Sunday Night Football, and Xavier Worthy is catching a 70-yard bomb, and then the next series, Hollywood Brown, 60 yards. But that's not really how you win in December. So I'm a little bit down on the Chiefs. I'm with you. I would take the under on their win total. But then again, we've said this about the Patriots for nearly 2 decades, and then they're able to flip the switch sometimes. Eventually, I guess I'll be right about the Chiefs. It might be a long time, but I'll still take the under, and I'm not known as the best gambler. So do it.
I love that. So in regards to quarterbacks, I was, throwing around this topic in my mind before I brought you on. Which quarterbacks are under the most pressure this season? And you could kind of define pressure, based on a variety of different ways. I could give you an example and say, well, Lamar Jackson's under enormous pressure because if he doesn't win, it's another year where we say, well, he has all this regular season success and he can't get it done. But I also think you could take the question this way. Daniel Jones is under enormous pressure. His team essentially tried everything in their power to replace him. We watched that on Hard Knocks this offseason. And now if he goes out there and doesn't play well, they're clearly moving on from him. So he needs to play well to keep his job as a starter. So you can answer this question any way you want, but which quarterbacks do you think are under the most pressure this season?
Well, I actually think Tua is, because now you kind of have to justify your role. You know, it's cool when you're on a rookie contract and you have all these receivers, but now all of a sudden, because of, you know, what you make, it's not a matter of, is he this? It's a matter of justifying. I think you could say the same thing about Trevor Lawrence, getting a larger chunk of pie. So I think those two guys are under pressure. Some people would say Aaron Rodgers, like, really? Like, you're 40 years old, you're a Hall of Famer, you know, you have a good football team. I don't know, like, I don't know that that's like a ton of pressure. I think
he needs to be healthy. If he's healthy and competent, they should be good enough to at least be a playoff team.
Yeah, I don't think he has to be old Aaron Rodgers, quite frankly, with that squad and what they got around him. CJ's under a lot of pressure. Obviously, you know, he's kind of the flavor of the month. He's 9-1 to win MVP, which is, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, that's a lot. So I'd say he's there. And I think Brock Purdy, I think Brock Purdy, you know, you've had a certain amount of success the first couple of years. Now it's, you know, are they winning because of Brock Purdy? I think that kind of increases. And then there's always going to be pressure in Dallas with Dak Prescott, regardless of how good of a season he has. I think there's always going to be pressure there.
So the next question I have for you is in regards to another quarterback that I think is under pressure, but I don't really know if it matters because I just don't think he's good anymore. And that's Russell Wilson. The Steelers named him their starting quarterback earlier today over Justin Fields. This to me just screams the classic, hey, if you have two quarterbacks, you really don't have any, because it was like this big debate. Do they do Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? And I think at the end of the day, as good of a coach as Mike Tomlin is, this is, to me, the first time he's going to be under 500 as a coach, because with that schedule, the division they're in, if he gets them to 9-8 or better, God bless Mike Tomlin, make him the coach of the year, because I don't think any of those guys are their long-term answers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because I think we've both been in football hell, and you know, you know what football hell is. You can only win a few games and all that, and you have no hope. And then, you know, you just next year you kind of reset, and sometimes you find yourself remaining in hell. I don't think you could find a quote more hellacious situation than what the Texans were a couple of years ago over a stretch. But I almost would argue that where Pittsburgh is right now, regardless of how Russell Wilson plays, is kind of football hell, because you're basically on a mediocre treadmill where, okay, cool, you've had a winning season, you went 9-8, the streak continues, but you have no upside, you have no chance. Like no one really thinks that Pittsburgh has a chance to win a Super Bowl, even if they scratch and claw and end up in the playoffs. So I would make the case that being on that mediocre treadmill in Pittsburgh is worse than bottoming out and getting a top 5 pick, or bottoming out and having significant changes. Because it almost seems like every year, like, you're not good enough. You kind of, things go your way, you scratch and claw, they play hard for the coach. But I mean, there's no ceiling. Like, you could tell me that any of those teams in that division make a run or get to the AFC title game. And even with Deshaun, with all the questions, like if Chubb comes back and their defense performs, like, you could make the case. Cincinnati, we've seen them do it when Burrow's healthy. You can make the case. Baltimore, they were close to doing it last year. But Pittsburgh, I don't see any ceiling for Pittsburgh. It's just kind of like they're just on a treadmill of congratulations, nice streak, awesome. That's cool. It kind of seems like football hell to me.
Yeah, Tomlin is like almost too good, because if he was not a great coach, they would have bottomed him out and they would have maybe CJ Stroud or someone like that as their quarterback right now.
Yeah, and he's great. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Mike Tomlin. I mean, he's just keeping it afloat. But there's really no upside there.
All right, here's what we're going to do now, Landry, before we wrap. I told you that I wanted some over-under bets that you can make over at BetUS Sportsbook. Of course, the Jake Asman Football Show, if you're watching live, is presented by my friends at BetUS. Use my link in the description or in the pinned comment and sign up, and BetUS will offer you 125% sign-up bonuses up to $2,000 with your first 3 deposits. I'm going to screen share the BetUS Sportsbook so we can look at it to the latest up-to-date NFL regular season win totals here. The Landry, if you have an over or an under you like, shout it out, and I'll pull it up on the screen for people to see.
Yeah, I'm going under on San Francisco. I think it's a little bit too high. So it kind of like we were talking about with the Chiefs. I'm going under on San Francisco.
11.5 is the number.
Yeah, 11 and a half is a lot. So I'll take the under. I mean, if they win 11 games, I mean, that'll get you, I mean, that'll win you a division a lot of times. So I'm taking the under on San Francisco. I'm taking the I'm taking the over on the Saints. I'm taking the over on the Saints at 7.5, and then I'm taking the under 11.5 on the Chiefs and the over 8.5 on the Colts. I don't know why the Colts are 8.5. They could have easily won the division last year. Jonathan Taylor's healthy. They improved at the wide receiver position. I think they got one of the most underrated coaches in the league. Shane Steichen, by the way, not being top 5 in coach of the year last year is an absolute disgrace. And I know that's kind of a sin to say in Houston because we hate the Colts here. But I mean, come on. Like he damn near won a division with Gardner Minshew at quarterback and Jonathan Taylor holding out and a depleted secondary. So 8.5 for the Colts for me seems pretty low. I mean, the 9 and 8, 10 and something like that, 11. And who knows what Taylor does. I'm taking the over on the Colts.
The team you cover up close. Texans are at 9.5. The money line is a little juiced, -150. So the odds are people are putting money on the Texans to go over that 9.5. They won 10 last year. It's a much more difficult schedule, as you talked about. But your thoughts on this number for the Texans?
Yeah, I'll take the over, but I think it's going to be just barely. And I do think the division is going to be tougher. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball as well as they would like to. Running back depth's a little bit of an issue. I think the Bet US over under for Joe Mixon rushing yards is like 850, which is relatively low if you're talking about someone that's going to lead your squad in rushing. So I'll take the 10 because I think the quarterback is that good. I think the edge guys are that good, but it's going to be a lot tougher this year than last year.
So if you want to make any of those picks that Landry made, or if you want to fade Landry Locker, you certainly can. he said he's not a good gambler, so he did tip you guys off. If you were watching just before we got into the betting lines here. Landry, final question before we wrap. I have a fantasy draft tonight. Ooh. You're a fantasy guru. You're in a big money league with you. My old radio co-host, the great Cody Stoots, is a part of the league. I want your best piece of advice for me. I got the 3rd pick in a 12-team league later. I want to take Brees. That's me being a Jet fan, though, but I think Brees is certainly deserving of top 3 consideration. Your thoughts on what I need to know about the fantasy football season coming up here?
See, I had 2 when I took Bijan Robinson because I think there's a lot of pressure on the Falcons to I would imagine that was one of the interview questions. How are you going to maximize our running back? So I took Bijan Robinson. He's also a really good receiver. I like Brees. I wouldn't take him at 3. At 3, I would go either Bijan or CeeDee Lamb. And I would call it a day there. But the Brees Hall, I mean, I'm a big Brees Hall fan. I like Brees Hall a lot. I just don't know, like when you get in the red zone, is Aaron Rodgers going to do his thing? Is he able to check out? I don't know. So I would say Bijan or Lamb, but I will also say this. I took CJ Stroud in the 3rd round because our quarterback touchdowns are 6. If you follow a squad and you have someone that you can root for on top of your squad doing well, I think that's always a fun experience. So if you want to go with Brees, go with Brees.
I like it. Landry, where can people find your work?
The Locker Room on YouTube and at Landry Locker on Twitter. Got a lot of stuff coming down. Just actually got back from practice. So daily practice reports, night stream at 10:30. I know the Texans are playing the Jets, so we got to talk about that. Got to avenge the Zach Wilson L.
we got to do a simulcast that week. I can't wait. Now you are invited as well to my tailgate that I'm throwing for Jets Texans. So if you want to spend Halloween in the New York area, you let me know. All right.
Okay. Hey, don't threaten me with a good time. I enjoyed it out there. It was fun. Although the weather was kind of bad and the stadium was, I mean, CJ got hurt in that game. So yeah, not fun.
You didn't enjoy the largest air conditioning unit in the world, MetLife Stadium?
Did not. And it was wet. It was wet too. It was wet and rainy as well.
Well, Andrew, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for hopping on. Continued success with the YouTube channel and everything you're doing. And just remember, consistency, man. I told you that at Saltgrass Steakhouse like 2 or 3 years ago, whatever that was. And look what you've done.
Yes, you did, man. Thank you very much, Jake. I appreciate you, my friend.
He's Landry Locker. My name is Jake Asman. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. This has been the Jake Asman Football Show. If you're new, it's not a Jet show. It's a football show. We'll talk football here thanks to Bet US multiple times a week on this channel. He's Landry. I'm Jake. Have a good one, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.
This video is brought to you by Bet US Sportsbook and Casino.